Hello, BookTube. Well, the people have spoken once again. I raised the suggestion yesterday that perhaps my mail hauls were a little self-indulgent on my part. I love it. I love going through the mail live with all of you and seeing what's coming up and chatting about it. But I wondered if maybe it was a little insular, maybe it was a little too self-indulgent because the books aren't out yet, and I wasn't sure how much, as the Dude Bros say, value you had placed on these things, but I've heard from quite a few people now in private. I'll leave my email down below. Feel free to email me about anything at any time. And also in the comments of that video that mail hauls must continue. So we shall go on with mail hauls. And we'll start with the packages that made it through today. Today is a dark, sleety, rainy, gray, chilly day. Just awful. Just awful. But there was still some mail. So what have we got here? Okay, this is by Christian Bros, and it is called The Kill Chain, Defending America in the Future of High-Tech Warfare. The Kill Chain. This Bros was a senior advisor to John McCain. When we think about the future of war and the military and Washington, and most everyone gets it backwards. We think in terms of buying single military systems such as fighter jets or aircraft carriers. And when we think about modernizing those systems, we think about buying better versions of the same things. But what really matters is not the single system, but the battle network, a collection of sensors and shooters that enables the military to find an enemy system, target it, and attack it. This process is what the military calls the kill chain. Can you find the enemy? Can you target it accurately? And can you take it out? How you get from detection to action and do it as quickly as possible. This book argues that the future of war is not about buying better versions of the same systems we've always had, but about buying faster, better kill chains. That is certainly true. It's a little depressing, but it's certainly true. As former staff director for the Senate Armed Services Committee and senior policy advisor to Senator John McCain, Christian Bros saw this reality up close. In The Kill Chain, he elaborates on one of the greatest strategic predicaments facing America now. We are playing a losing game. Our military's technological superiority and traditional approach to protecting power has served us well for decades when we faced lesser opponents. But now we face highly capable and motivated forces using advanced technologies to erode our military edge, and with it, our ability to prevent war, deter aggression, and maintain peace. And not to get all Chomskyan on you, but I'm sure that when Bros says maintain peace, what he means is maintain American hegemony. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but one way or another, some of you who know your history will hear loud bells ringing at that, because it's certainly true. The world's predominant superpower just keeps pumping huge amounts of money into the wrong things and hauls itself out from inside. How many hundreds of billions of dollars, how many trillions of dollars is America's military budget right now? When its roads are falling apart, its citizens have no health care, its children are dying at a greater mortality rate than half the world. It puts you in mind, not for me in mind, not so much of ancient Rome, but of the Soviet Union at the end, when 80% of the budget was military, and the country was falling apart from the inside. So this will be some sobering stuff. I don't have any objection to sobering stuff, but let's hope this mail haul has a couple of bright spots in it as well, instead of just sobering stuff. I'm dealing with a lot of sobering stuff these days. Okay. I don't know how to categorize this or not. This is a slim volume of poetry. This is The Solace is Not the Lullaby by Jill Osier, O-S-I-E-R. And the cover looks like a nighttime tree illuminated by fireflies. It's kind of a nice cover. I kind of like it. It also kind of looks like a map. The hollow more than shape is certain. Okay, the 114th volume of the Yale series of younger poets. Oh, so Jill Osier is a younger poet. We'll find out all about her. We'll find out all about her when we're done with the description here. Her poems are of quiet attention to the human and natural worlds. Osier's poetry, distinguished by its brevity, precision, and restraint, offers what Phillips describes, that's Carl Phillips, describes as feeling incongruously, dare I say magically, like closure, a steady place to land. Okay, well, you may dare say magically if, to quote Peter O'Toole in Masada, you don't mind sounding like the god of all fatuous idiots. So who is Jill Osier? Let's find out who she is. She's young. She has to be that. This comes out in late March. It's a very slim volume of poetry. She was born in Iowa. Well, that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. I know she's a good person. Her poetry includes chapbooks, and she is the recipient of a National Endowment for the Arts Literature Fellowship and a Poetry Society of America Alice Faye D. Castagnola Award. And she lives in Alaska. What on earth? What happened there? It's okay. She was born in Iowa, and she lives in Alaska. And she is now in the Yale Younger Poets series. How good for her is that? Shall we read one? They are indeed, as the pub sheet promised, they are short. A lot of them are. This is called Ice Boat Notes. The seasons are always beating us to the best ideas. This one's spectrum siphons to bear to a naked release of birds. I know. I followed them like clues all the way to where the ground gets shy, dipping down to little creeks, and a huge gray tank was already there, rusting in the forest like a submarine. Okay, so what is the ice boat? Is it the tank? And hence the comparison to a submarine? The seasons are always beating us to the best ideas. This one's spectrum siphons to bear to a naked release of birds. Okay, so the best idea is the naked release of birds or following the birds? It must be the naked release of birds. I know, I followed them like clues all the way to where the ground gets shy, dipping down to little creeks, and a huge gray tank was already there, rusting in the forest like a submarine. Okay, I kind of like that. I kind of like it. The ominousness of finding a rusting tank when you're following birds. I kind of like that. So, that comes out a little bit later. It's not going to take more than 2 seconds to read, but it will take time to ponder. As I mentioned on this channel, I tend to go slow with volumes of poetry and with children's picture books because there's more to than meets the eye. Okay, what is this next one? This is going to be a June hardcover. It's a memoir from Hayden Herrera, and it's called Upper Bohemia. Hayden Herrera's parents each married 5 times. Pikers. Following their desires was more important to them than looking after their children. When Herrera was only 3 years old, her parents separated, and she and her sister moved from Cape Cod to New York City to live with their mother and their new, hard-drinking stepfather. They saw their father only during summers on the Cape, when they and other neighborhood children would be left to their own devices by parents who were busy painting, writing, and composing music. These adults inhabited a world that Herrera's mother called Upper Bohemia, a milieu of people born to privilege who chose to focus on the life of the mind. Her parents' friend included such literary and artistic heavyweights as the artist Max Ernst, writers Edmund Wilson and Mary McCarthy, architect Marcel Breuer, and collector Peggy Guggenheim. I don't know how Peggy Guggenheim would like knowing that her one-word descriptor is collector. There's a way, the wicked old thing, there's a way in which she would probably have liked that. But she wouldn't have thought about art. Okay. All right, so this comes out in... the author, Hayden Herrera, is an art historian and the author of biographies on Frida Kahlo, Gorky, Max Frank, and Matisse. Her biography of Gorky was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, and her biography of Isamu Noguchi won the Los Angeles Times Book Prize. She lives in New York City and on Cape Cod. Okay, well, this comes out in June. It grates just a little, just a tiny bit. I don't know anything about it, but it grates just a tiny bit because I am of a generation, I am of a demographic mind frame that says that you should have a better motivation for writing anything than to complain about your parents. Nobody's parents are perfect, but that's just an initial reaction. Probably, in fact, almost certainly, there is a lot more in this book than just complaining about parents. The pub sheet certainly lays it on with a trowel, but maybe the book doesn't. All right, so let's see what this next one is. It's big, whatever it is. What is this? Oh no! Oh no! Oh, terribly sorry. Oh, this doesn't count. Yeah, I didn't look at it closely enough. This is a Kirkus review book, so it doesn't count to even look at, much less give you first impressions about. Sorry about that. I made a decision a long time ago on this channel. I review quite a few books for Kirkus Reviews, and I made a decision on this channel quite a while ago that it's not fair to hold them up and talk about them. I can talk about the really, really good ones after the fact, but I can't talk about them ahead of time because my reviews are anonymous. So the author has no idea who's writing the review, and contrary to popular belief, Kirkus does not dictate that I do anything. As long as I'm fair, as long as my review is balanced and gives an accurate account of the book, I can level any criticisms or verdict that I want. It just doesn't seem fair if I'm cloaked in anonymity. It doesn't seem fair to hold the author's book up. So we're going to skip the Kirkus book. So we don't have quite as few. We have 4 packages instead of 5. But that's all right. We've still got. They're probably going to be more mail today. So we'll make do. And there's no law that says that mail hauls have to go to 40 minutes on this channel. So what is this next one? Oh my! Oh goodness. Okay, didn't know this was coming. Wow. All right. Well, I've got a choose your own adventure novel here that just goes on for 50 pages. What do I? Okay, I don't need you either. I don't need you either. Yeah, I'm sure your Enneagram is interesting, but I only need to know about the book. I don't have anything about the book. All right. Well, you're going to know the author. This comes out in late June, and this is Roddy Doyle, and this is his new book, Love. There's a pint of Guinness. I know quite a few people. They only have to see this image. They don't need that word to feel that emotion. That's all. And they're completely synonymous. If you see that image, then you feel love. An upswelling of love. A love of a purity that you don't feel for your family. So let's see here. Davy and Joe were drinking pals back in their Dublin youth. Davy rarely sees Joe for a pint anymore, maybe 1 or 2 when Davy comes over from England to check on his elderly father. But tonight, 1 pint will turn to 3 and then 5 as Joe recounts a secret, leading the 2 men on a bender back to the haunts of their youth. Joe has left his wife and his family for another woman, Jessica. Davy knows her too, or should. She was the girl of their dreams for 4 decades earlier, the girl with the cello in George's pub. As Joe's story unfolds across Dublin, pub after pub, so too do the memories of what eventually drove Davy from Ireland. His first encounter with Faye, the lively woman who would become his wife, his father's somber disapproval, the pained spaces left behind when a parent dies. As much a hymn to the Dublin of old as a delightfully comic yet moving portrait of what it means to try to put into words the many forms that love can take, this novel marks a triumphant new turn for Roddy Doyle. It's a triumphant new turn that I predicted a long time ago. I didn't predict it, unfortunately, in print, so you're going to have to take my word for it. But I predicted a long time ago that it would be a noticeable thing, it would be easily spottable, and it would be something that the author does in a novel rather than in interviews or, God forbid, in private, when Roddy Doyle starts writing old novels, when he starts writing novels as an older writer. Looking back instead of forward, reflecting, pausing, even regretting, instead of laughing uproariously. I'm sure that there will be a lot of uproarious laughter in this book, but this strikes me as the very turn that I was expecting. And the prediction that I made all those years ago was not just that would happen. That is a fairly easy thing to predict, but that it would bring out the best in this writer. I think I'm the only person who's read the novels of Roddy Doyle and felt sort of a toe-tapping impatience. Because it seemed to me that he was not playing in his natural register. And it sounds like this is going to be in his natural register. That natural register being, of course, the natural register of Irish fiction, which is a deep, plangent regret, interspersed with moments of wry and often scabrous humor. But a lot of his earlier books were the wry, scabrous humor, but with a bounce to them, and who needs that? You want a bounce to your scabrous humor. Go to the Protestants. But we shall see. We shall see. This comes out in June, but I might read this early just because I've had a kind of a vested interest in this book without knowing that it was coming and without knowing what it would be. But an epic Dublin pub crawl by two old friends who are rehashing every single broken heart and personal betrayal in their past. Novels don't get much more Irish than that. And so I could end up liking this more than anything Roddy Doyle's ever written. We shall see. So there is we'll call this the first mail haul, because I don't think the mail is done yet. And I have a total green light to go ahead now from all of you, all over the world, to go ahead with mail hauls, to keep doing this. I've heard some interesting idiosyncratic things. I've heard some complimentary things. A couple of publicists, you know who you are because you're watching now, a couple of publicists wrote and said, no, it's not just that we love the mail hauls because you showcase our books. It's also that we love them because you showcase everybody else's books and because you know what you're talking about. One publicist said that in a little more explicit way. Said that apparently a few young book publicists watch BookTube. And a couple of publicists wrote to me and said, well, yeah, we watched some other booktubers open books and hold them up and read the pub sheet and whatnot, but they don't know anything about them, and they don't have the first clue about the author, and they don't have anything, and no idea about precedent. Whereas a couple of these publicists were saying that they learn things when I do this. So, and that was just a publicist, and the rest of you were saying, I got in emails, again, my email will be down below. Feel free to email me. I am not the usual YouTuber in any way. I want you to make personal contact with me. I'm not afraid of that. I want you to do it. Go right ahead. But I got a number of very complimentary sentiments from all of you about mail hauls, saying it feels like you're talking about upcoming books with a knowledgeable friend. Someone who isn't just going to rant about his own idiosyncrasy. There'll be that. There'll be lots of ranting. But there'll be lots of assessment, too. And how many times... Oh, I shouldn't have needed anybody to point that out to me because I've seen that. How many times, how many thousands of times in mail haul comments on this channel have I seen people say, oh, X books look good, when not only did it not look good to me, but I said it didn't look good to me in the video. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. We have infinite tastes here. Also got a number of very complimentary people who didn't, I don't think, realize how much of a compliment they were paying me to compare my mail hauls with Thomas's at SFF 180. That is quite the compliment because he knows science fiction backwards and forwards, and has, of course, not that it's saying much, but he of course has a far greater professional polish than my videos too. So the mail hauls will continue. If there's more mail today, you will be the first to know about it. But in the meantime, this was a slimmer collection than I thought. I had to drop one book. So we have Love by Roddy Doyle. This one, I admit, deeply interests me. In a way that, for instance, 15, 20 years ago, if you'd said that there's a new Roddy Doyle novel coming out in June, I might not have been as interested. So we shall see. Maybe I'm getting my hopes up for nothing. Then Upper Bohemia, Hayden Herrera's memoir about being... what these things boil down to, although they very seldom say it, is a memoir of being the child of people who had no business having children. Now, I love it when memoirs can eventually reach affection and forgiveness for such people, but it still chaps me a little that so many people have children without having any predilection for parenthood. I've seen the disasters that can wreak. Then a slim volume of poetry from the Yale Younger Poet series. Always exciting. This is Jill Ossier's book, The Solace is Not the Lullaby. Slim thing full of slim poems by an author who was born in Iowa and lives in Alaska. And lastly, Christian Brose's book, The Kill Chain, which is not only about the idea of the kill chain and the time-honored military precept of the kill chain, where we need the people to operate the machinery to find the enemy and eliminate them. That is the kill chain. Not only about that, but also about how if you're not constantly rethinking what constitutes a kill chain, you're in danger of becoming obsolete. And if your military becomes obsolete, it's not the subject for lol cow memes on the internet. It's a subject for your overthrow by a military that is not obsolete. So it's a very serious thing. These none of them are coming out right away, right? Yeah, March, June, and April. None of these are coming out right away. None of them have an immediate call on my attention. I think the Roddy Doyle probably I will read tonight. At least I'll read it first. I'll give it that quick, totally impressionistic first read with no pencil in hand, just reading it, as close as I can come to non-critically, just to see what jumps out at me. And then I'll lay it to rest and give it a while, and then I'll read the finished copy when I get it critically with pencil in hand and all that. So there you go. That was the first mail haul, and I'm going to wrap this up at 20 minutes. Not bad. That was another thing you all told me. You've all told me, go on with the mail hauls, and you've all told me, we don't care how long your videos are. So I don't. Somehow I have managed to find exactly the right audience for myself. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.